for volunteering your time to the Symbian Consumer Marketing Focus Group. Your opinions are valuable to us and we want to know what they are. Tell us everything. 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 Tell us everything. 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 Thing.
Alrighty. Hello, everyone. And thanks. Oops, that's not the right thing that's supposed to be there yet. Lol. Okay. Good start. Good start. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Vantage Point Spoilers. It is that wonderful time of year again. My name is Zengren, and it's great to be back here. We've got a very packed season, and we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But first, I want to introduce my two guests. Um, First up, we've got analyzechris. Could you tell us and the stream a little bit about your how you started with Netrunner and how you kind of interact with it on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. Hi, I'm Chris. Analyze Chris. I've played since Mumbad. Um, I got into the game after playing a little bit of Hearthstone and not really no other competitive card games. And I come from a board game background, so I really loved the asymmetry and like design of Netrunner. And then just kind of fell in love with the gameplay. So I spent a lot of time in the New York City meta getting beat up by like all the spikes in New York, and now I've grown up to be a spike myself. So I enjoy competitive Netrunner in 2026.
All right, and Aura, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, hi. My name's Aura. I'm a member of the narrative team, so I write what's on the cardboard, largely, except for the rules text. And I got involved with Netrunner because I've been sort of like into card games for a very, very, very long time, decades at this point, and I felt very burned out by card games for a million reasons during the pandemic and after. I knew of Netrunner. I could never really find the time before that point for Netrunner, and I decided to make time for it. And funny enough, the first tournament I went to, the local TO retired, and he looked at me and went like, "Hey, somebody will have to run this," and I'm like, "Ah." And thankfully, we helped keep the meta up. I don't have as much of an active role now because I'm really busy, but otherwise, I've been helping with the local San Francisco Bay Area meta for a while, for a long while at this point, several years. And I joined NSG last year, and PP is my first writing credit, so yay.
Nice. Congrats. Yeah, I think we'll definitely want to talk about that piece. It was great to read that today. It was a very fun. Well, fun is maybe it was a engaging and well written piece of fiction. But also in theme, I asked the two of you to think about what your favorite Jinteki card was, and so I guess we will. Well, I'm kind of curious to hear what your thoughts are. And Aura, maybe we'll start with you because you introduce yourself second.
Yeah, sounds good. And I am kind of upset at you because now you're asking me to choose between all my children because Jinteki is my favorite faction. Uh, But seriously, I was so part of QTM, and so Loud is really close to my heart. I see a prana condenser or a sting, and my heart just sings. And I was kind of sad when that agenda got banned correctly, I think. But uh, yeah, prana is just everything I like about Jinteki. Just damned if you do, damned if you don't, and I'll make sure that you fear doing it. So.
Very nice. Yeah, it's definitely one of the big elements of Shinteki is that trying to get you both ways. And Chris, love to hear your thoughts, and we'll see if I can. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking through the card pool, and I picture myself as a boring mid-range, standard Netrunner player. But a lot of the decks I've played have been like crazy Jinteki decks throughout the years, um, like starting from IG all the way up to like RH and Akko. But like, I think the my favorite Jinteki card is MT Mokundu, um,
Mm.
which like is a little polarizing as a card. You love it or hate it, but it came at a time when I was like learning the game and like getting good at the game, and I had to come to grips with why is this ID so mean? Why is it so terrible? It seems broken and unfair, and so you know instead of giving up, I brought it to some friends, and we played a lot of games, and they kind of showed me, listen, you can play around this ID. It's not perfectly broken. There is counterplay, and I started to like really appreciate how Jinteki as a faction can like force you to interact, because if you don't, they'll have spikier threats and like find ways to kill you. Um, and MT was like the coolest expression of that for me.
Very cool. Well, unfortunately, my image puller seems to have broken. I didn't catch that, so I can't even pull up a lot of the cards we're talking about here, which is a real bummer. But in the meantime,
it's forbidden knowledge. We better not share that with people. If they haven't seen it. It's too
I'm gonna Before we talk about the spoilers today, I do want to. This little graphic was made by NSG, and I want to make sure to kind of show it off. So today is of course Friday, and so we had a great piece from narrative today. We'll have visual, and then we've got a steady stream of NSG articles and pieces through the 19th. So basically through to next week. And then starting the following Friday, there's going to be a set of community previews, and those will be coming quite heavy. Looks like pretty busy couple of weeks for us, and a lot of fun new faces here. So that should be good. And I think my last stream will probably be Saturday the 28th, and then I will be taking the next 2 days off. Maybe I'll get back. Hopefully, I will be able to do some evening streaming of the actual set when it comes out. But otherwise, I think that's sort of my plan. I don't know. I'm definitely looking forward to, and I have not read basically anything from the previous season. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what I feel like design development updates have generally been quite good, and we are seeing there's going to be some kind of standard ban list update, though it certainly could be no changes. So looking forward to all of those. With that said, should we talk about the ID of the hour?
Yeah.
And Aura, I'm going to have you. I will admit to being a little bit less than 100% tuned in when you said this pronunciation. So I'm going to ask you to walk me and the chat through how to pronounce this card.
Yeah, this is Melies U. I also mispronounced it for the longest time in development as Melies, but no, the S is actually pronounced. So it's Melies U, only the brightest, and Melies City is our new city of adventure on the moon. I've part of the things I've been doing for Vantage Point was to work on Jinteki, to be the person who drives the conversation. Of course, all of these is being very collaborative, and the team has, even on just these cards, done a lot of work, but both us and our peers in the visual team. But the idea was to have a place to call our own on the moon and to make it something that was very specific and interesting as it is. Oh, it's a university. Oh, there's something sinister going on here. Oh, it's a Jinteki place. What does it mean for a place to be a Jinteki place rather than belong to, say, a country? And at the same time, also sort of highlight how weird and interesting this is, and also call back to cards in previous formats that had this secret selection set up. Though this, of course, comes with a bunch of twists.
Yeah, I realize I haven't done the usual thing when I read a card, or when I put a card up, which is I read the rules text on it. So this is Melies U. It is a Jinteki 4515 ID, and the text says, when your discard phase ends, secretly set your identity to any copy of Melies U, only the brightest. When the runner makes a successful run on the central server, flip this identity. When the runner's action phase ends, gain 1 credit. So why would you flip this ID? Well, it has 3 different versions, and I'm going to try and pull each of them up. They have almost exactly the same text, so I'm going to pull up the HQ one here, which says 10-year floors. So we can talk about all of them in a minute. And it says, when you flip this identity to this side, during a run on HQ, look at the top card of R&D. You may trash that card. If you do, add 1 card from Archive to HQ. when the runner's discard phase ends, flip this identity. So the idea here is that if you remember, the initial condition was when the runner, the condition to flip this identity is when the runner makes a successful run on a central server. And so the idea being like, okay, great. If the runner makes their successful run, now we get to check the flip text. If this happened to be on the run where they were running HQ, you get to resolve the effect. So if you can guess where the runner is going to get to run, you get to do a pseudo archive memories effect where you trash the top card of R&D and get to pick up a card from archives back into your hand, which is pretty cool. And then there's some timing stuff so that this flips back. And if the runner doesn't run a central server at all in a turn, you just get a credit, which is, honestly, a pretty good floor for an ID. Or I think I want to go back and talk about the fiction and the piece in a little bit, but maybe because it's been a little bit, I want to hear Chris's thoughts on this ID first, and then we can hop back to your thoughts. So.
Sure. So I've played a lot of Jinteki Glacier and Jinteki mid range or rush you might call it, with Polana, with RH, with Ag Infusion, and Jinteki as a pure real netrunner faction has always struggled a bit with money, and so how conditional the econ is a good indicator of how strong the ID is. So Polana was incredible because runners must draw. You're Jinteki, you're probably threatening some net damage. They're gonna have to draw. You can even make them sometimes draw on your turn. So that would be a steady drip of credits. RH is okay, but it encourages you to have this kind of super defensive style to block archives. Ag also provides a lot of threats to prevent running. But this one, Melius, is interesting because it just drips that credit for protecting centrals. So if you can make centrals not really worth it, where the runner is losing value from going for singles, then you might find yourself awash in credits pretty early. So just on the economic front, it's pretty strong. And then it gets really confusing when you think about the actual ability. Because it's somewhat of a mind game. You need to figure out where the runner is most likely to be running. And you want to make it not trivial to get in or to turn it off by running a non-essential central. But the payoff for when they do is kind of huge. And I think for me, at first glance, I'm calling R&D, most of the time. I would say 75% of the time. Just because if you get to see the card on top of R&D before they access it, and you have the ability to trash it and get it out of the way, that's providing a lot of security that Leo and other Glacier decks would kill for. Being able to just say, no, you can't have this agenda right now. Try again in archives. Heaven forbid I have a spin doctor in the remote or something. So that alone, the defensive capability kind of tacked onto this is really strong. But then if you take it another step further, the recursion piece is also quietly kind of busted. If you're able to discard the top card of R&D, even if it's not on an R&D run, even if it's just on HQ and you look at it and it's a redundant piece of ice, that happens a lot in Glacier. I've already installed 2 MICs. I don't need my third or whatever. Being able to discard a redundant card for your most powerful card in your heap in your archives is incredible. I've played Corporate Hospitality recently in Leo, and I've been playing 2 or even 3 copies of it because it's so common to lose a power card like Mercia or Void, or even just be broke and need to get money back with a planogram or a hedge fund. So having that ability to money up and to fix whatever is currently wrong with your game is absolutely incredible. Now, I think the big question is, how often is this going to happen? And that I'm actually not sure about. How often do people successfully run centrals against Jinteki? How often do they want to grab singles? It's not usually a great game plan, but if you're putting pressure on them to do that, otherwise you're going to keep dripping a buck every turn. that seems pretty good to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, that is quite solid. I think it was interesting to see, the chat going like, "Oh, isn't the floor for this like doing nothing?" And I think that sort of ignores that like for it to do nothing, the runner has to be able to both. It's not just that the runner has to be able to guess where you selected it, but they have to be able to go in one of those places that you didn't select, which is very not like that's both board state dependent and pretty easy to control as the corporation. So I think it's like fairly manageable.
Yeah, an early play pattern might entail icing all three central servers, and that's like it's a little slow for like rushing out with this deck, but and so that's why I'm kind of concerned that this is going to end up being like a super like heavy glacier style deck.
Mm-hmm.
Because if your idea of having a floor of doing nothing is the runner every single turn taking a single, that can be okay if they have to go through a Tatubola every time. That's very, very good for you.
Yeah. Or I guess I'd love to hear your thoughts on this card, and then both as a game piece, but also we should probably talk about the fiction piece that you wrote.
Yeah. Mechanically, I will say that I am looking forward to putting Front Company in a remote, put a bunch of defensive upgrades on it, and then lose that game with this idea. I admit I was the Mirror Morph prison player. So all three of us were there. And seeing something that incentivizes people to controls the flow of those runs just makes my heart beat a little faster in that sense. For the fiction, one of the big things that I had in mind writing that fiction was to show the passage of time, most importantly, in big and subtle ways. The setting, we often sort of think of it in sort of a suspended state, right? We think of characters that have been in the setting and we believe they're still around. There is no official sort of timeline of the setting, but I wanted to at least show that some things have changed. And kind of subtly in stuff like System Gateway, we knew that previously the places on the moon that were inhabited were largely underground, for example. And to shield them from radiation, because that allowed more people to live in a space where because the surface required a lot more investment, all of this kind of like ideas. And then we've seen small places on the moon in System Gateway. We've seen corps starting to build on top of the surface, for example. And we've seen the Reality Plus, for example, ID. And now we are here on the moon. There is an entire city, Earth-sized city, just like a city on Earth, on the moon, on the surface. And like, it's kind of unremarkable if I just show it to you like this, but it is sort of a playground that we really want to use in a bunch of ways. There's some views of it through the set. We've already seen another one. Very sadly, the Underdome in my conception of the city is one of the neighborhoods of Melee, for example. So, and the Underdome irregulars are from Melee. They're from Melee's. They are part of this sort of. We want to think of it as a place where things can happen in the same way that we think of like Kota Kalimantan, for example. And all that I wanted to reflect in the fiction, basically. I wanted to show a character seeing a place that's new in a way that is new, and I wanted to make sure there was a lot of Jinteki in it.
Mm-hmm.
Things are happening. It's not clear why this science is happening this way. There's a lot of things that we've seen Jinteki do that are happening here as well when somebody gets too close to their research.
Yeah, I was really like entranced by the kind of not mind control, but like the mind reading and like seeking through your memories. Usually you hear about these like precog things from the clones, and yeah, I'm not a huge lore guy, but like in the past it was like, oh, we're creating these clones and they have these powers or whatever. But you see it here, having these. It's almost like a surveillance state, so it like kind of makes a connection to modern day surveillance with I'm seeking these answers from you, I'm looking through your memories, and it was really like it was really hard to read, like in terms of it just felt like really spooky to be in this person's brain.
Yeah, she's not having a good time. Yeah, no, the idea was very much to be in that place where we see the ideology of Jinteki sort of from a little corner of a space they built. Um, a lot of work that I've tried to do was to sort of sort why corps do things, so sort of why a card could be Jinteki or not Jinteki, for example. And um, part of it is figuring out what Jinteki wants, right? What kind of ideology is being encoded in the processes of the company? What kind of like aims are rewarded and punished? And that kind of thing tends to become institutionalized, tends to become part of the company. I've worked in very big companies where that it was pretty clear that some values were like rewarded or punished depending on what was going on. And those punishments or rewards didn't quite make sense. They could change over time, but like generally, once there's a direction, that direction keeps going, and it keeps going and changes lower the bigger you are. And here we are with like the latest of late capitalism, megacorps that span the solar system in some ways. What does Jinteki want is a very real question you can ask, and what does Jinteki value also? There's quite a bit of that in the set, which is has been quite an interesting both writing and discussion exercise.
Yeah, I think that's it's. I think there's definitely like Jinteki. I think that like what does a corporation want is definitely like a very good question. I think it's also especially for Jinteki, which I feel like has been kind of the what is the goal of Jinteki does feel like it's been a little bit amorphous and like for quite a while in a way that's not where it's like, oh yeah, NBN, like I can imagine the narrative, like they want to control, you know, making people believe what they want to believe and whatever is like relevant, is convenient for the people in leadership there is great, you know like the other corporations I feel like have this very clear motivation, and I think Jinteki has felt a little bit less clear of like, okay, what's the point of all the stuff they're doing, like thematic, like play wise. I think Jinteki also has some challenges, but there's sort of like this idea, but it's like, okay, but how do you turn this like net damage stuff into net damage and traps and secrecy? Like, what does that actually look like in terms of a motivation, right? Because as much as corporations are not people, like the assemblages do generally have things that they want to be able to accomplish.
Yeah, it felt very clear in New Angeles, the board game, when you would just spread disease throughout the city, and then Jinteki would be the ones who were able to treat it. They had all the right medicines and all the right technology, but that doesn't feel as close to the card game um, as like net damage and telekinesis or whatever.
I mean, that could be a fun future. Like, I think that idea of Jinteki as both it's the problem and the solution is an interesting one. I won't make the narrative members speak to whether or not that's on their mind, but
Yeah, no, I think mostly what's happening here is more than what can benefit them economically. At this point, these corporations have literally all the money, literally, right?
yeah,
The way that money has been presented in Netrunner, we know that it's completely a corporate concern. That we know that these have all the power, and we've seen now kind of an escalation that I wanted to sort of sadly have here. Again, this is a place that is not has no statehood. There is no government here. This is a Jinteki company town, but it's a Jinteki company town the size of Boston, right?
yeah.
Or at least that's sort of the thing that goes on in my head when I write it. And it's like kind of interesting to see what they want when they have all the money, when they have all the power. And I think what Jinteki wants has always been sort of oriented to control in a very subtle way, uh, controlling nature, controlling biology, controlling bodies in ways that are sort of holistic, right? That are sort of like, we don't have to control one single thing, because when we decide sort of paternalistically that a direction is good, we can make sure we can grow the garden in the way we want. And that's sort of the aim here. There's a few things in the set that I will not spoil, because oh my gosh, do we have a preview season here. Certain pieces of art even here sort of hint at this position of Jinteki, in particular, that I wanted to be able to write, that I advocated for with the other members of the narrative team. Again, all of this is very collaborative. I'm not the only person writing this, but I hope I push it in a direction where it's clear what they want.
Very
Is
cool.
it gauche of me to ask if that if the piece of ice that's mentioned at the beginning of this piece is in the set?
I don't know that I can say anything about that, but I really like the image that was put on social media. You should go on social media and look at that link and see the cover image, and it's
Excellent.
Yeah, I think I want to shout out. It's the. I'll be interested to see like exactly how this ID lands. I've seen people propose various things. It's like I do think Glacier is probably a good home for it. Like yeah, recur hedge fund, that seems not bad. Um, but I also could see like I think cephalopod. It would be unethical to exclusively recur FUT with this. And I imagine there's some other. I've seen people mention bite as a thing to bring back with this. Could be a bit of pain for the runner in there, but
yeah, I think the logical downside of making a horizontal deck here is you're less likely to defend the centrals. So you're letting them play into that game a little bit. But maybe that's what you want. Maybe you want to be, doing the Yomi thing and calling all the shots.
Yeah, I mean, actually, to some extent, that is kind of a neat thing where this ID seems to be able to like kind of split the Yomi and the like the try hard a little bit in a way that I think has been difficult for a lot of Jinteki IDs to do, where they either feel like they do serve one or the other, and this feels like it has some ability to do both. So
absolutely,
yeah. All right, well, that's sort of all we got for spoiler for cards for the day. But this is we've had quite a few other cards spoiled. Do we want to start with some of the runner cards first or corp cards first to kind of recap for people that might be catching this and weren't aware there were cards out already?
We can start with runner cards, I guess.
Okay.
yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, I think the first one is this. Yeah, this is gonna be the first one is in set order. So this is Corsair. This is a 3-cost 1MU Anarch program Icebreaker Fractor. It is 0 base strength and 2 influence, and it has the text interface 1 credit, break 1 barrier subroutine. 1 credit, the barrier you are encountering gets -3 strength for the remainder of this encounter. Spend credits only from stealth cards to use this ability. There have been many Golden Ages of piracies, each occurring at stranger and stormier waters.
I have exactly one little narrative tidbit for this card, is that I told another member of the team, whose name I will withheld to protect the guilty, that they were trying to rewrite this after having done this top of their head, just like writing this down in such a perfect and beautiful manner, this flavor text, and they wanted to rewrite it to something simpler, and I was like, over my dead body.
Oh, this is the first draft. This is great. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very good, a very solid piece of flavor text. I think it's like an interesting breaker. So I don't know. It's people have been like crew Anarch has been a big thing as of late, and it does feel like Anarch's. It feels like that might be a bit of a stretch to put both of these in the same deck, because the only stealth source I can think of for Anarch right now is Trickster Taka, and he doesn't play that nicely with tags. But
yeah,
I would
it's
say Chris
awkward right now. it's awkward right now for sure. And so like you have to look at new cards, in a vacuum, but you also have to, ask yourself what will the context be like when the set comes out? Are we going to get stealth support? Will new archetypes come out? And like stealth is such a build around that you don't usually just splash one or two stealth cards. Like, yeah, you could play Trickster Taka and this in a reg host deck, and one of your tricks is that you break Bran really easily. But that's a lot of hoops to go through to mess with Bran. But I think the cooler synergies are indeed the fact that it lowers ice strength, that synergizes with crew, even chisel and other ice destruction. I like that it's limited to barriers, because one of the more frustrating things about crew charm decks is that they just kind of invalidate ice. So this brings it more back to the idea of Netrunner as a game of locks and keys, and this is a particular very very strong key, but it only fits certain kinds of locks.
Yeah, I wonder if you see if like it's possible that like now that like there is no cleaver, that this could almost be a default. Like if you just ran Taka and Corsair, could that be your barrier solution in like a reg deck? That might be too limited, but
the answer is almost certainly not, unfortunately, just because like if I see someone set that up, and like even if they have like a leech or something, I'm just gonna stack barriers on my remote. I'm gonna stack barriers on my most important central, and like they have to, if it's like a Bran and literally anything else, that's 3 stealth credits to get through both of those. Seems not feasible to me.
Thankfully, it is not like in the spread page wasn't artfully hidden a message about the possibility of stealth support in the set that only the eagle-eyed may have catched. I have thought, actually. Sorry about that. Yeah, no, I am excited. I am very excited to see what other support happens here. But yeah, you are right that right now the cache is a little strapped on the stealth side. In standard, we only have Taka, we only have Mantle, we only have Penumbral.
Yeah. Well, rather than keep dragging out the conversation on that one, we'll go with Lampedes, the runner-up for Jeff Insert Face splash screen. It was particularly cursed, and maybe I'll put that on as a closing screen one day. But we've got Lampedes. This is a one cost. I'm probably actually saying that incorrectly now that I say it out loud. 1 cost, 1 MU, Anarch program, 2 influence, no strength. When you install this program, place 3 power counters on it. Access hosted power counter. Pay the printed or res or play cost of the card you are accessing. Trash that card. Spend credits only from stealth cards to use this ability. I get why it's templated this way. It makes a lot of sense when you think about the rules engine of the game, but it is a funny thing to see a play cost that takes up 3 lines of text to explain what you're paying.
It's all in bold. Yeah, it's a cost.
Yeah, it's all part of the cost.
All right, so I first saw this at Worlds this year, and I was admittedly pretty excited because the text printed res or play cost should ring a lot of bells to people who played Freedom Kamalo. And so this is effectively his ability on a program tied to stealth. So like Freedom Kamalo was such a sick deck because you could be disruptive with very low overhead. Like if you have 0 virus counters, you can just trash 0 cost cards for free. And that's wild. So this is obviously not as like broken as that on the floor, but I think it's like a powerful enough effect that will make you want to have it if you're running a stealth deck. And so we're starting to see some of these come together where, yeah, maybe I'm only like, crewing barriers using Corsair and crew, but maybe I'm also getting extra disruption in centrals because I have this, excess of stealth credits, and I can trash stuff that I normally can't trash.
Yeah, I am very excited for this also. I will say that the last time I was at Worlds, at Worlds 24, the Shaper Worlds, was there with my Freedom Kumalo deck before I rotated for entirely. So you can imagine how excited I am to see this happen. I'm really looking forward to see if this puts a floor on costs such that the corp now has to think about perhaps twice for cards that cost 1 or 2, just as to not have that liability. I'm really excited to see where the meta goes with this.
Yeah, I also like, I think like, yeah, someone who played a lot of stealth in the old days, like if you just basically had to put your stealth deck away if ask. Let's see if I just dropped the stream or not, or if OBS is yelling at me. Okay, we'll see. Hopefully that wasn't a serious drop. Anyway, sorry. With stealth, like you kind of had to hope that assets never became popular. Maybe this is enough to help stealth decks survive a little bit in the asset meta. I think it's also kind of interesting that there are like not a ton, but a few zero cost cards where you might like being able to trash like a Svedogor excavator, for example, with this.
Oh
You don't
yeah,
actually need to
that's
pay
great.
any stealth credits. You can just get this down and still disrupt the board. And you can kind of do like it's not quite as free as like Freedom was with Spin Doctors and Rashidas, but you still are threatening those and trashing them at a noticeable discount relative to their actual trash costs. So like it definitely seems like it's probably not a card that you're excited to include. Like you're not going to include stealth support just because of Lampades, I think. But maybe it's like it probably doesn't need that many extra incentives to make it potentially playable. So it'll be interesting
Jeff,
to
I got a
see what
rare
that looks
lore update for you. It's these are the torch-bearing nymphs of the underworld in Greek mythology. So my best guess would be Lampades.
like. Lampades, okay.
Yeah, it's my best
Well,
guess.
And this is my narrative fun fact for them. The goddess they herald is the goddess Hecate, which you will be familiar from Greek mythology or by playing the video game Hades 2.
Nice.
fantastic. All right. Well, let's hit the next card. A card that. Oh, did I mirror that? That's very funny. Or maybe it's mirrored somewhere. I don't know. Underdome Irregulars. This is a one-cost resource connection, and this text just says "Baz, Baz, Baz." If you're bazzing, keep bazzing. But no, what it actually says is when your action phase ends, if a piece of ice was res this turn, draw 2 cards or remove 1 tag. If no ice was res this turn, trash this resource. So you only get this reward if you can get the corp to res. So all of you people saying that Hermes is the way to be, I've got a counterpoint to you. This expensive, well, a different, worse card I get to put in my deck to justify not running Hermes still. But yeah, I guess, or I'd love to hear your thoughts on Underdome Irregulars.
Crim's gonna Crim. But this is kind of interesting because Crim doesn't get this kind of like draw that easily, right? Or at least not in faction. And yeah, I'm really excited. I do have some narrative tidbits here. You can see the Melee dome in the back because we are on Melee. There's a Melee, sorry, with the S. We need to say the S. This is sort of the service quarter of the city. This is sort of where the lower income population, the janitors and bartenders and waiters, etc., that make the university run and the attendant businesses around the university run, they all live sort of here where there's less space, where the infrastructure of the dome is like slightly more looming. And that flavor text is very interesting, but that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Yeah, Chris, what are your any immediate thoughts on Underdome Irregulars?
Yeah, I've been actually thinking a lot about this card. I came to banlist testing pretty late, so I didn't get to actually play with it. But the idea that you could draw 2 cards every turn is really dramatic. But the fact that this can just completely blow up in your face makes you wonder if it's even worth it. The obvious example of Baz being able to like benefit from resing is great, but like Baz can't force the corp to res stuff really. I think the most obvious combo here is window of opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
because you de-res something and if they don't re-res, then they're being drained by a ton of credits and and you can get this draw. So like the other usage I'm seeing for it is a way to force through a transfer of wealth. You slap this down early, um, and they're going to want to protect from the transfer, and so that'll get you 2 cards, right? Or if the transfer goes through, you can get rid of the tag. But then what happens next turn is my question, because like I've paid a click and $1 to draw 2 cards, which is not really that good. It's like not that much better than clicking to draw twice. So you have to really be all in on like forcing reses to get the max value out of this. I'm not really sure yet how that's going to work, but it's cool. It's like really cool to be able to passively draw cards. I'm playing a lot of Seb and lately, and just this idea of, oh, on my turn I'll draw from this. Oh, and I'll draw from this, and I'll draw from that. When draw is clickless, you have so much freedom on your turn to do cool stuff.
Yeah.
So I would love for this card to be listed.
Yeah, I mean, I think also I'm like, oh, in Baz, I'm probably installing this clicklessly. So it's like, okay, probably the first turn, it's like, okay, I spent a card and a credit to draw 2 cards. That's like, it's slightly worse than Stone Ship Chart Room, I guess, but it's probably about the value of a Stone Ship Chart Room. And if I can get it fire a second time, it's probably close to the value of a Diesel. And then like if you can somehow get this fired 3 times before it trashes itself, that seems pretty solid.
Yeah.
I wonder, we've seen so much Illumination. I just had the thought of like, oh, what if you like Illumination install 2 of these, and then like you can somehow chain that, and you're like drawing like 4 cards clicklessly and stuff. I do think it's probably hard to get that many consistent triggers, so this is certainly not going to be in every deck. But I think John mentioned like, oh, does this make Tranquilizer viable? Like, I think there could be some interesting stuff with res derez. I think the biggest challenge is going to be what you do in decks that are less ice dependent. How do you make them res ice? Because I do think you're right also, Chris, that like, the corp is the one who actually chooses to take the action that lets you draw cards. So how can you make them choosing to not res cards as painful as possible, so that they feel like it's a better option to give you 2 cards than to let your run be successful? And I think that'll be an interesting challenge to see if anyone can make that work or not. Okay, well, should we move on to the corp cards that were spoiled prior to the spoiler season officially starting?
Sure.
Oh, I have so
kind
much
of
to
go
say
together.
about them.
All right, so if you were very early, you might have seen this card with a different name, but this is now Synchrocyclotron. It is a 3-cost HB asset. It is subtyped Facility. You get the first double you play each turn, costs click, less to play, and is 3 to trash. And this has a pretty nice flavor text as well. The Cyclotron's utility was discovered after its Magnus quenched during load testing, resulting in 1,600 tons of liquid helium venting directly into Heinlein City tenements, and an anomalous 13-second local time loss. An apology was issued, funerals were covered, and funding was rerouted to recreate the error at scale.
If that doesn't scream HB, I don't know what does.
Yeah.
I have not written this text. I've helped edit it, but not written it. And thankfully, our wonderful people in the rules team have managed to fit this ability into just 2 lines, so that we could have the space to get it mostly out. I am over the moon. It is by far my favorite piece of flavor text in Netrunner. And also, a while ago, I wrote a little script to go through an RDB's sort of backing data. And if I remember correctly, it's about the 10th longest flavor text in Netrunner history.
How
I do
long did
not remember which the other 1/9 are, but it is up there.
That's wild. I'm like, I guess FFG flavor text was probably a little bit smaller and had less spacing between it, so you could fit a couple extra words in there. Or maybe it's just it used shorter words. Who knows? It's like that kind of level of stuff. So
they had higher text boxes, so they had a little more space to it.
I see.
It's cool how the flavor text, takes something that's so HB and makes it really sinister. Because a lot of the times, like when I think about HB cards and their, the flavor, it's like, oh, they're efficient. This is a corporation that's efficient, and they use robots. good for them. They're a bunch of nerds, but this is like really malevolent and like, very sci-fi, but also see the gears churning in their heads. Like, ooh, how can we exploit this like tragedy
Yeah.
to like save a
Part of
couple clicks here and there?
yes. Part of making this sort of work conceptually was largely about thinking about what does HB represent, and HB represents both this sort of idea of efficiency and reuse and sort of this rigidity, right, in thinking. We want to go fast, but sometimes that forces us to just do specific things or do only these specific things at a specific time because that's the programming that we build. And at the same time, what they offer people in the world is this idea of luxury, this idea of uh, sort of being able to live a life like they want it. You can think about sports, you can think about poetry, and sort of the synthesis of the two, in my opinion, and what I push when we do what I pushed when we did HB stuff is, hey, uh, HB's ideology, quote unquote, is largely about can we take the pain out of life in this very sort of like stylized ideological way. You can have your own butler, you can have your own nanny, you can go to the sports place where the sports people do pound the ground with their mech arms and think of all of these cool clothes that you can think because everything else about life is handled for you. It is we have removed the barriers, the inefficiencies between desire and execution,
Mhm.
and that's sort of the sinister vibe I want to give to HB. We've taken sort of this idea of luxury that is very sort of quote unquote retro for to be not incendiary in this moment, and pushed that to a place where we have rebuilt kind of slavery in the form of the buyer of it.
That's very neat. I think rather than talk, well, yeah. And now I have to go and pivot and ask about thought. I mean, I actually think that's a very, like, it's, I appreciate, it's great to have you on here and talk about this, like, this other side of the game and the narrative that, like, I don't think about, and, like, think about this stuff at a more, at a very intentional level. And I think it's very neat to think about this idea of, like, what does this kind of, like, yeah, because there it's not a person with an evil motive, because it's not like it's not just a motive, like, what does that actually look like? And some of the game is about the harm it does. I'm sure there'll be some cards that show, oh yeah, there's, I guess in theory having a butler that's, helps is great, but they're, showing why the corps do this and where the costs are, I think is quite interesting. um,
Speaking of that, Jeff, there's some serious cost to playing this card in your deck.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. This card
it is
seems pretty rough at the moment. I mean, presumably there will be doubles in the set, but right
yeah.
now, are the doubles are what, corporate hospitality, and the card we'll talk about next, and those two don't feel inspiring to me, as I would want to include a 3-cost asset just to save a click, right? So it's like that. This click saving needs to do something pretty substantial, because it's basically not going to provide value for you. Um, if you're like, you're not going to just like play this for, oh, I'm going to play a corp deck full of doubles and this will just provide me like an incremental value, right? This is like, this click gain, click gain for the corp almost always has to be, this does something huge for my play. And the doubles right now feel so restricted as to make me a little bit questioning about the power of this card. But that's, I don't know, that's my immediate thought.
Yeah, I think it's also like there's a more fundamental flaw with the card is that it's an asset that you need to protect in order to play operations. And so, like, what kind of deck is ready to spew out a bunch of assets and protect them, but also has the slots to run, 6 to 9 like doubles? Um, like that seems pretty niche unless the doubles like really revolve around your game plan, which corporate hospitality is not. I love the card, but it's not like a win condition. But I think
Yeah,
that's
it's a
like where
support
the
piece.
next card comes in.
Yeah, and maybe we should just talk about the next card because like John was talking. I feel like it's just a piece of game win combo, and I think Luna was like, "Oh, I think we're going to see a lot of synchrocyclotron." I think in part, like if we do, it's probably going to be because of a card like Flood the Market, which is how you convert doubles into a win, right? So it's like, oh, okay, Flood the Market is an NBN card. It is a 3-cost operation double. So it says it's additional cost to play this operation. Spend a click. Choose one installed card you can advance. Place one advancement counter on that card for each remote server that has a card in its route and is protected by ice. So for those of you at home who say, that text sounds a little bit familiar, that is the exact same condition as fully operational. And so in theory, you could have a deck that has Flood the Market fully operational, and now maybe Synchrocyclotron makes some sense because it's now an asset that you can put behind ice that powers up your Flood the Market. So it's doing 2 jobs at once. So maybe that's a home for this stuff.
Yeah, Flood the Market is definitely like a biotic style piece that you would splash in a deck because your game plan like is set around it. The synergy with Synchro Cyclotron is interesting because like it saves you 1 click, which could be the difference between scoring a 2-3 and sorry, a 3-2 and a 4-2, or 4-2 and a 5-3. But like honestly, it feels easier to just get more servers. Like if I have more tools, so if I
Yeah,
instead
it's like,
instead
oh,
of
could I
including
just
single cyclotron, include top down solutions. Like suddenly I'm like another server and a half away from my last Flood the Market advancement.
Yeah, I mean, there is that. There's like, I guess in theory, there's like a play where you go, I have just 2 ice on the board. I top down solutions, install synchrocyclotron, install my agenda, res the cyclotron, flood the market. I have 1 click remaining, and now I can advance, and so I can go from a naked board state and
Yeah.
do a what is that, like a 4-card combo that costs 8 credits to score a 3-2. So that doesn't sound the most impressive, but I guess you're left with a synchrocyclotron as your on the board, so you're not completely out of value. But yeah, it does. I think it's like Flood the Market does read as powerful to me. Fully Op has been a card that, while I am a staunch defender of, people have said it's broken it many times in its history. So I could definitely see Flood the Market having a place, and like, yeah, maybe the actual play is you just have 3 or 4 remotes and you just install Flood the Market, score.
And on the side of narrative and flavor, I'm gonna just say 2 things. The first is that I give everyone permission to shorten cyclotron to just cyclotron. You do not have to trudge through the name. I promise you, it is fine and people will understand. And the other is that I really want to uh, just sing the praises of the visual team and all the work that's been done to work with the artists, because this piece is exceptional. And
Yeah.
I keep joking internally that every time I think about something from Vantage Point, it's a banger. I've never used the word banger more to describe something I was working on than working on this set with like the visual team and the narrative team. And the flavor text is great also. There is a tipping point where an ad becomes so omnipresent, it's subliminal, which is great text, IMO. But this concept just illustrated in this way, where we see a familiar bag that some of you may recognize, just advertised over and over
Oh,
and
is
over.
that Topon's bag?
That may be the same model as Tupan's bag, maybe.
Yeah. Wow, that's yeah. So I'm hoping to, it was great to I this is, now on my list. I'm like, oh, I need to make sure I have a narrative member on every daily cast. I'm hoping to have someone from the art team to do a deep dive on some of the art and work that went in there for daily cast, because I thought that was a really fun episode last time it happened. So definitely, like, I want to make sure that these people that do work. Like it's very easy. We're gonna spend the next however long talking about the mechanics of this card and making sure that all of this other work that goes into these cards gets its moment in the sun. I think is very worth doing. And I'm not quite heading to. So I'll actually save this because it's not. It sounds like a wrap up. John saying maybe flood the market and cyclotron and wide epiphany. Yeah, I could see this. I think cyclotron's 2 influence, so you probably could bring it out into other factions. I'm trying to remember if there was another double that isn't banned in NBN, but I think it was just touch-ups, right? And nothing else. But
that's all I can think of.
yeah.
Epiphany could do a lot of ice.
Yeah. Epiphany does seem like a solid home for this because you can manipulate the top of your deck. You can put down ice pretty quickly, and you're expecting people to want to interact. So that could be an interesting home for Flood the Market as well.
Click 1 Epiphany, click 2, and 3 Flip.
Yeah. Very neat. All right. Well, I think we'll start to wrap this up. I want to say thank you to analyzechris for coming on. Thanks to Aura for coming on. It was really good to have you on. It was really good to get this kind of narrative perspective. I think I might finish up with what faction are you most excited to see more spoilers for? And because I did not prompt either of you that I was going to be asking this question, I'll give both of you a moment to think while I once again plug the graphics. So today was a narrative piece. Tomorrow should be a visual piece, and then Sunday will be a visual and rules update, and I think we'll be joined by Jamie from the rules team for that, ideally, to talk about some of the rules changes and updates going on with Vantage Point. Then we'll have a nice little 4-day sprint into the community previews where things will really, the fire hose will really start to open on spoiler season, is my understanding. So, Chris, do you have a faction or thing you're most looking forward to in what's left of, or in the spoiler season ahead of us?
Yeah, I'm really hoping for new toys for Leo. I've been playing around with different influence spreads lately, and just we're playing with the same cards over and over again. I want to get some new, so I'm really excited for HP.
Yeah, because winning Swiss really implies that Leo needed that extra power.
The deck's not quite there yet. Yeah.
Yeah. And Aura, how about yourself?
Oh, I want to be thankful for being a guest here, but you keep asking me to murder my children. To choose.
One faction, Aura. That's it.
Our collective children. One faction. Oh, I can't. I think you would expect me to say Jinteki, but I think I am very, very excited for Shaper. I've seen things, and some of my favorite pieces of art in this set are in Shaper. But we are talking about a very stacked sort of lineup. When I say my favorite, the distance between my favorite and even the one idea I like the least is very small. Never used the word banger so much. But
All right,
I could not play test the set, so my mechanics sort of opinions are a little lower, a little less formed, let's say. But no, yeah, I'm insofar as how cool and interesting the cards are. I am so happy with all of them. But Shaper specifically has some of the biggest sort of emotional hits in the set, and as the person who does narrative work and is part of the narrative team that does this narrative work, that's sort of my number one concern when I don't know mechanically what's happening.
Very cool. Well, I'll look forward to, as a big Shaper stand, I'll look forward to what's ahead. Thank you both for coming on. This has been an absolute blast. Thanks for everyone tuning in and chatting. I will post in the description. There's still probably, if you're interested in coming on and talking about spoilers, there's probably, I've got a couple of slots open, so there will be a form you can fill out if that's something that sounds interesting. You don't need to have any amount of Netrunner knowledge. I love having people from all different parts of the Netrunner community. I think it's part of the point of Daily Cast to me is to show how broad and varied people's experience of the game and the tasks of making it and such be. So thanks. If that's something that sounds good, I'd love to have a couple more names in here. And thanks again to Chris and Ora. You have both been wonderful guests, so thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
And with that, stay running and enjoy the rest of spoiler season, everyone. I will see you all tomorrow night.